Welcome to Localite, everybody. It's great to have you with us. I'm John Compton. And with me today in studio is Barb Ayers, and she's the PR director for Providence in Hood River. And she's here to speak to us about something very different than her position with Providence. And what I'm talking about is something that we don't all, especially here in the Gorge, really give a lot of thought to. And that's being prepared for natural disasters and fires, all that kind of stuff. So she's here to talk to us about that. And so Barb, welcome to the show.
Good to see you, John.
Let's start off with, why are you involved in disaster relief, or not relief so much as preparedness?
Well, all of us, there's things that all of us can do. You might think, wow, it'll never happen. But the truth is, it really could. Here in Oregon, we're well overdue for a very big earthquake. We've seen repeatedly wildfires. I myself live in Mosier and was evacuated last summer. That kind of thing can happen at any time. Mudslides can happen. And every winter, we have these little mini disasters, which are basically big snowstorms. So you can get holed up at your house and you may run out of things. So it's really important just to kind of keep everybody's stress level down, and so that it doesn't get as bad as it can, to be prepared.
Okay, all right. Well, tell me then, because you actually were working in San Diego, and what was your position there you were with the fire department, right?
Yeah, I worked for the city of San Diego,
okay,
and worked for the fire chief, and developed a program called Community Emergency Response Team, and it's done to FEMA standards. There's CERT teams all across the country, and it's basically training local citizens on what to do in disasters, how to be prepared. And there we formed teams all throughout the city. I mean, a city of 3 million people, we had like 21 teams, we had 1,500 volunteers. And these folks would go through very intensive training, and they'd be able to help their neighbors in their neighborhood kind of hold down the fort. Because one of the things that happens in disasters is there's federal, international, local, and state response. There's people that will come and help. It's just they can't get to you right away. So usually you're on your own for 3 days, and it's those first 3 days that kind of make or break you. Depends on how bad it can get. But that's when you really need to kind of take care of yourself, your neighborhood, your family, and try to kind of hold down the fort.
Okay, so these folks that you talk about that were placed throughout different communities, they lived in these communities and they just had the training then?
That's right. So we had a whole program, and it was taught by firefighters, and we did all these intensive drills. We had helicopter drills. We staged large mass casualty events. We had this huge training facility, and we staged everything. We did what they call moulage. So we had fake dead people and fake injured people that had pencils coming out of them and blood dripping. It was really real.
Wow.
Very real. And we also had fire props that we had to use. Actually, we all have fire extinguishers. We actually pulled them out and we used them. And we learned a lot about just very basic first aid, like, for example, what are the 3 killers? Well, they're breathing and bleeding and shock. So any one of those things can kill you. So in those first 3 days, you need to be able to just at least be able to stem that kind of thing as well. If there's anything you can do to kind of, we're not going to be a doctor, we're not going to be an EMT, but there are things we can do just to kind of have it not get so bad.
Yeah. Well, okay, so you were doing this in San Diego, and then you came up to the Columbia Gorge and started working for Providence as the PR director. And how did you get re-engaged in implementing some of the or maybe not implementation so much as just being involved with some of these programs?
Well, all of the local fire departments, hospitals, law enforcement agencies are involved in these county-wide planning, both for disasters and what are we going to do if things get bad, because it only makes sense that if something happens, the fire department's going to have to respond, law enforcement's going to have to maybe evacuate you. A whole lot of people may end up at the hospital or need medical care. So this whole professional community is ready and aimed at taking care of the big picture. But again, on the smaller scale, from a personal perspective, what is it that we can do in our homes? What we found in San Diego, and why my program was started in San Diego, was because we had the Cedar Fire. It was the largest wildfire in California history. It happened right in San Diego. We lost 2,500 2,500 homes. And there was many things that we learned we needed to do. Obviously, one was, how do we notify residents? You know, and at that time, we got into a reverse 911. So there's a way to reach everybody. What can the fire department do, you know, to respond and stay flexible and get good real-time information about what's going on? And the other big thing we learned was there's a huge hole in terms of the general public. A lot of people have what they call a 911 mentality. So something goes wrong, I pick up the phone, I call somebody, and they're going to come help me. Well, kind of the definition of a disaster or in a big wildfire, anything like that, all of the emergency services are tapped out. Everybody's calling all at the same time, so oftentimes phone lines are down, your cell phones aren't even going to work, power's probably down, water may be out, so everybody, there's such greater problems that are affecting not just you, not just your neighborhood, but the whole city, the whole community, maybe the whole state, the whole region. So there's all of these things that are into play. And again, so that's where it's really important for us as people in our homes, at work, or wherever we may be, and with our families, just to kind of, what are we going to do? How are we going to prepare? And the three things that we like to emphasize are, number one, we call it 3 days, 3 ways. So you need to be able to be on your own for 3 days. Say, right this second, you and I are right here taping this show, and we're stuck here for 3 days. You know, what are we going to do? Well, lucky for you, I happen to have my 3D kit with me today. So we're good to go.
All right.
The other thing is we're going to make a plan. So as a family and at work, you're going to go, what if something happened? What would we do? What would be our plan? And one of the big things to think about is, what about your family? What if your kids are in school? What if your partner is at home and you're at work? How do you reconnect with your family? Because if you don't have a plan for that, believe me, your stress level is going to be sky high, and you're not going to be taking good care of yourself. And, you know, it could get sort of out of hand. So that's the second thing you need to know. And then the third thing you need to do is stay informed. You know, you need to listen for updates from authorities, and you kind of need to do what they say. You know, I think it's probably pretty common, may even be some human nature, either to be in a state of denial or just saying, forget it, I'm just going to hole up in my house. And really, those aren't really good solutions. You know, I experienced that myself when I was evacuated. I had some neighbors. So, you know, it's pretty important to work within your community too, and do what you can do to kind of pitch in, and it's kind of a greater good there. It's all of us in it together.
Right. And it sounds like it really starts with just getting that dialogue going. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about that when we come back from the break. Just sort of how you get out and get this conversation going in the community. So we'll talk a bit about that when we come back. You guys, be right back with Barbara Ayers.